and welcome to Boom or Bust, the NFL Fantasy Football Podcast. It's as usual Thursday night host, Kieran, and I'm not joined by my usual co-host, Shug. He's away on one of these trips to London, not for the NFL. He described it as networking, more like one of these corporate excuses for a piss-up. But I'm in good hands here. I'm joined by Drew. How are you, Drew?
I'm very good, Kieran. How is yourself?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to getting into things. Week 4, things are picking up. It's been a crazy week in our league for trades, and you've been at the centre of it all with our absentee co-host tonight, haven't you?
Oh, today there was definitely a bit of business done in the market today, and I think there's a bit of news coming out today that I've definitely won the trade anyway.
Okay, so am I right in saying it was a bit of a bumper trade? You gave him 4, he gave you 4, is that right?
A straight 4 for 4, but I've been back and forward with Shug all week trying to get one of his players, and I was sending him 3 players for one of his players, and I think I put it in amongst the group chat, and everybody kind of thought Shug should have taken the deal because they all thought it was a pretty good deal. The 3 players I was giving him were pretty decent players for the one player that he was giving me back, but he wasn't up for it. But we got a deal over the line deadline day before the Thursday night game.
That's it. So when Shug comes on here, he always talks about rolling the dice, right? And it must seem like a bit of a laugh to people that don't actually know us, but he does really love a big deal. Yeah. And it is quite funny, but somehow he gets the wins. He does all right. But tell us, who did you trade with him? Who did you receive? Put it that way.
So I received Cordarrelle Patterson, Alvin Kamara, Christian Kirk, and Isaiah McKenzie.
That's quite good. In exchange for who did Shug receive?
So Shug received my first round draft pick and Christian McCaffrey.
Yep, and this is before the news came out today that he will miss this week's game.
Yes. Oh, is it confirmed he'll miss the game?
I think so. Let me double check that.
I just seen that he sat out of practice today, and I don't think they've mentioned anything about the game.
So he sat out his second day on the bounce, of practice, and what they said on the NFL Fantasy Twitter was handcuff Deonta Foreman.
We'll get to that.
Yes, okay, right. So back to where it was. You gave him Christian McCaffrey.
I gave him Christian McCaffrey, Rashad Bateman, Melvin Gordon, and I actually can't even think of the last one. And Alan Lazard.
There you go. So
that was 4 of them.
Yeah, so I think that's a good trade. I think you've done well out of that. Time will tell. It really will. I wasn't too sure on you taking McCaffrey with your second pick. It was a wee bit of a gamble, but I think you've sold at the right point.
I think the way I looked at it was McCaffrey, on a good day, you know what I mean, a really, really good day, it could maybe give you 30 plus fantasy points. But if I spread that over Kamara and Cordarrelle Patterson, over the 2 of them, the spread's probably going to be a bit better. They could each achieve quite easily 20 points each, and I'm up at 40 rather in 2 players. You know, that's the way I was looking at it.
Yeah, and not only that, you look at things like bye weeks.
Yeah.
So Christian McCaffrey's bye week would come up, you'd be missing him completely for a bye week. Now you've got 2 solid running backs, and now we're not saying for 1 second that both running backs are as good. Maybe Kamara, years gone past.
Yeah.
But you're then not going to have to deal with one difficult bye week. You can spread it across your 2 players, which seems like a good trade. But you said one man there, Alan Lazard. What made you give Alan Lazard away? And we'll get right into it because we're going to go start and sit him, and I know you might have him on your list. So tell us a bit, why Lazard?
So the reason why I took Lazard pretty early in the draft, because obviously we'd spoke about him in length before the start of the season, how we thought he was going to do really well. And I think during pre-season he got a wee bit of a niggly injury and with his ankle, I think. So I think he missed the first game. He missed it. He sat out the first game. He came back the second game, got a touchdown. Third game, again, got a touchdown. But I've not been overly impressed with him. So my first sitting of this week is, sorry Shug, but it's Alan Lazard.
That's a kick in the teeth,
Massively
man.
is. Coming into the season, he was viewed as wide receiver one at the Packers, but possibly could be losing that title to Romeo Doubs, as Doubs played more and was targeted more than Lazard last week. With this and a tough matchup against the Patriots, who have allowed the least fantasy points per game to wide receivers at 27.3 points, and when they come up against Rodgers, they kind of have his number. Rodgers doesn't do pretty well against the Patriots when he plays against them. I wouldn't start Lazard. So that's the reason for my sitting of Lazard. But I don't need to worry about that now because Shug's got him.
I have to disagree with any of that. And who's your other sitting?
I feel like every single week, this guy's sitting on the bench. He's kind of like Martin when he used to play with our amateur football team, sitting on the bench every week.
At the physio's table.
Or the toilet. My second sit-em is Matthew Stafford.
Okay.
He's 23rd rated QB in fantasy points this year so far this season. He's tied in the league in interceptions with 5, and he's 7th placed in terms of sacks. Have been sacked 9 times already this season. His matchup against 49ers, really, really tough matchup, who have the third most zone-heavy defence. So he's going to really, really struggle, I think, in the pocket and things like that. 49ers have also allowed the second fewest fantasy points to quarterbacks this season. So I do expect this to be one of the lowest scoring matchups this weekend. So unless you've got maybe Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel, things like that, I wouldn't play any Rams or 49ers players.
Yeah, difficult one to call. And what about your stardom? Who are you liking?
I don't think we can really look past anybody running back wise apart from Jamal Williams. Last week, done exceptionally well, and now with the injury to DeAndre Swift, Williams leads obviously the Lions in the running back position.
Yeah, the Lions have looked absolutely brilliant this year. I've been blown away by them.
They have. We spoke about it, you know what I mean, when we were talking about the games. And I think we've all got this kind of feeling because of Hard Knocks and things like that. Everybody does have a kind of soft spot for them. And I love their coach, man.
Yeah, Big Dan Campbell.
He's brilliant.
If the Super Bowl was one in enthusiasm, he'd be right up there.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah, but on your point about Jamal Williams there, you've got a real point. And even when DeAndre Swift was fit, we tended to see a lot of the goal line action was going to Jamal Williams and was picking up the touchdowns.
Yeah, so Williams actually leads the league in carries within the 10-yard line.
There you go.
Out of all running backs, so it's quite surprising that it's not surprising that you say that. And now we know Swift, it definitely means more opportunities for him.
Yeah, there's no share there, so definitely it's hard to disagree. And who's your second stardom?
My second stardom is, you like this one, Kieran?
Go for it.
Devonta Smith.
He's in my team. I don't like the Eagles, but he's in my team.
I know. That's your rivals, isn't it, really?
Yeah, them are the Cowboys.
Aye, you don't like either of them, eh?
Nah.
Yeah, so Devonta Smith, he was the week 3 top scoring wide receiver at 31 fantasy points with 8 catches for 169 yards and a touchdown. And I don't think you can look past him this week. Past 2 weeks, he's done really, really well. You know, so yeah. Between him and AJ Brown, I think they will both get lots of targets this weekend.
It's hard to believe that he didn't bring in a single reception in week 1. And I was thinking to myself, if I made the right decision here, I know this guy's a good player. I know he's going to do well. But with the Eagles, they're playing out their skin. Jalen Hurts is an absolute rock star just now. I think he's QB3 for fantasy football.
He's an absolute machine. He's like, I think last year he was kind of the same, wasn't he? He was kind of maybe peaks and troughs a wee bit more. He was good, really good some weeks, and then some weeks he was absolutely terrible. But I felt last season he was one of these guys that started off games very slowly, and then he built into them, kind of probably like Kyler this season.
Yeah.
But Kyler's not getting the same amount of fantasy points, unfortunately.
I know. It's the way he's kind of established himself as QB1 at the Eagles. He kind of fell in their lap, and maybe I could be wrong with this, but when it didn't work with Wentz, it didn't work with Foles, and then they turned to him and they thought, right, we'll give the guy his chance, and he's took it. He's done well, but okay, you've took Jamal Williams for your stardom. You've also took wide receiver Devonta Smith. I love them both. Love Devonta Smith a wee bit more because he's on my team. And my first stardom is also on my team, which I'm delighted about. And now that I've said this, they're going to have horrible weeks. But my first stardom is Chris Olave. Been banging the drum on him for weeks. Last week was definitely his breakout game. 23.7 fantasy points in our full PPR league. 147 receiving yards from 13 targets. That's now 26 targets in 2 weeks, which is, for me, one of the most important things I look for when I'm looking at players to either start in my team or try and bring in off waivers or trade for, is double-figure targets. All right, they're up against the Vikings in London. They're not known for their defence. Maybe not the worst, but I think they're sitting around 20th in the league. I expect big points from them again, especially with the fact that either Thomas or Landry, or both of them, could be out. You've just seen all the targets go to Olave in that last game, and I'm expecting a big week from him.
That's massive, isn't it? If both of them are going to be out, you're literally rubbing your hands. I think it's weird with fantasy football. You literally look for injuries and you kind of secretly celebrate injuries. You know what I mean? You don't want any harm done to people, but as soon as you hear about somebody getting injured, you're right onto the waivers to see if maybe their backup is still available on waivers or whatever. It's unbelievable how mad it works. But obviously, you're talking about the Saints there. Hopefully, with maybe Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry being out, maybe they might run it more than throw it more, Kieran. And maybe Alvin Kamara will get more points.
Well, I'll be telling you right now, they're a pass-heavy offence, so Shug's won the trade, mate.
I don't know.
No,
pass catching.
See, on Chris Olave, and back to your point about Devonta Smith, and I talk from my own experience here, this is the whole thing of just be that wee bit patient with players. See, after week 1, I was raging. I get beat. These guys scored next to nothing, and I thought, right, who wants to trade? Who wants them? And I'm glad nobody took me up, because I can be very impatient. Now I'm learning to be a wee bit more patient, and we're looking a wee bit better now. But no, next one.
You got Chris Olave from Shug, didn't you?
Yes, and gave him Jarvis Landry.
Landry for Olave.
I'm a thief.
I know, that's it.
Anyway, my next one, another wide receiver, a guy I've been trying to get all week. I think he's really starting to break out now. Once again, I think people were a wee bit impatient with him at the start. CD Lamb, I'm really liking the matchup this week. Scored 22.7 points against my Giants last week, which is unfortunate. He's up against the number 30 defence in the league in the Washington Commanders against the wide receiver. So he's starting to get going, like I said. He got 12 targets against the Giants, and it looks like Cooper Rush and him have got a really good partnership. They're on the same wavelength now. Doesn't look like Michael Gallup's going to be back for this one, so I'm backing CD Lamb to have another big week this week. So if you've got him, start him. All right, but I look across, I've got 2 running backs sitting here as my sit-ems. All right, it's a guy I've not really rated too much. I thought he would have been the bell cow at the Chiefs, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire, for me, he's been steady, but I expect more from our running backs, especially ones that are drafted so high in fantasy leagues. Starting to see a split very evenly down the middle with Jerick McKinnon, which nobody's seen at all. And the Chiefs look very pass-heavy as well with all the targets they've got on wide receiver. It's not just Kelce and Tyreek Hill anymore. They've got a full array of wide receivers there that Mahomes can target. Also on that, he's up against the number 1 defence in the league against the running back in the Bucks. So it could be a long afternoon for CH.
We spoke about this during the week, or it was Sunday, Kieran. Like, we both said that this might be the time to maybe cash in the running backs that you chose kind of high in your draft, because like we've been saying consistently, none of them have really outdone themselves. You know, you look at Jonathan Taylor, and the other one I mentioned on Sunday to you was Austin Eckler. I've not heard Austin Eckler's name mentioned one time when we've been watching Red Zone or anything.
No, not at all. It's been a poor start from you. You could run through the list of every running back that was drafted in the first and second rounds of our draft.
Yep.
And you'll be lucky if any of them have scored over 15 points each week consistently.
I get rid of my first pick, and Martin was trying to get rid of his. You know, he was trying to get rid of Jonathan Taylor this week as well.
That's it. Mine was Najee Harris, and I'm losing patience on him, but I'm not the only one that's like that. Everybody's feeling like that now, and it is a good time to kind of jump on that. And let's be honest, you've kind of went that way with Chris McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Like, you've drafted him away, but at the same time, I feel I need to be patient. I think Harris will come good. I've also got Mixon. I think he'll come good. That guys don't get poor overnight. But another running back as well, I'm not really liking. Once again, he probably went in the first 2 rounds of our draft. Josh Jacobs at the Las Vegas Raiders. The Las Vegas Raiders have looked poor so far this season. They're 0-3. Jacobs, for me, hasn't done it. I think he scored 9, and then 14. And I don't expect a breakout performance from him. I know last week he kind of tethered about with whether he was going to play or not because he had an illness. But the production's been poor. He's not seen a lot of it at the Raiders, considering that they've got Adams, they've got Renfro there, and you've seen the breakthrough of Hollins as a wide receiver. So there's definitely a role for these guys and not so much a pass catching running back. And Jacobs is very much dependable in fantasy on his pass catching out of the backfield. But the Broncos, give them their due as well. Not off to a very good start as well, but they're third in the league against the run. So that's another thing to watch out for. So that's why I'll say Josh Jacobs is my second sit-em for this week.
There we go. Listen to the experts.
The amateurs. For anyone that can't see Dre right now, he's giving his inverted commas. So, in our humble amateur opinion, so that's what we go. But now, we'll look ahead to the games. This is getting recorded on Thursday night and it will go out on Friday morning. So we don't actually know what happens in the Dolphins and Bengals game, but for your entertainment, we'll try and predict it anyway. So, Dolphins and Bengals, Drew, who are you thinking here and who are you liking for fantasy?
I think just with the way it's been over the past few weeks, I think they're both coming into it in different areas of their form. Dolphins are absolutely, I would say flying, but Dolphins don't fly.
But especially this week in Florida.
Oh no, exactly. I know. I hope they're not playing at home, are they?
Let me see. They're at the Bengals.
Oh, thank God! It would be waterlogged pitch.
Yes.
But yeah, I need to fancy the Dolphins. I do. I still need to fancy the Dolphins. I think it really depends on. I've been looking on the fantasy thing, and I've not really seen anything about Tua missing out. So I'm guessing
playing. It looks like he's going to suit up. He's got a back injury and an ankle injury, so he is pretty banged up. But without him at quarterback, they're not much. But it looks like he's going to suit up.
I wouldn't trust Teddy Bridgewater coming in there and providing what he does, you know. So I do think with Tua there and the options that he's got and wide receiver, not really a big fan of the running game. With Waddle and Hill, I think the Dolphins will do it.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Dolphins on this one as well. Tua in there, I think he'll do well. I've not been impressed with the Bengals whatsoever, especially that O-line.
Yep.
It just, to me, watching it, and this isn't like my figures or anything like that, it just looks like Burrows is getting sacked like 6 times every single game, and every time you watch him, he's taking hit after hit. And all due credit to him, it just shows how good he is, that he can still produce. He's frighteningly good, but the Bengals, for me, just haven't done it whatsoever. Hope for a big night for Mixon. That would be lovely. But nah, I'm going to go to the Dolphins. I'm going to go with you on this one.
I think he's the highest sacked quarterback, I think, in the league so far.
That's right.
I think so.
That is right. So, next one up, Minnesota Vikings at the New Orleans Saints. But they're not actually. They're playing in London, half 2 kickoff. Great British time on Sunday. Who have you got, Vikings or the Saints?
I'm going to go Vikings on this one. I think Cousins and Jefferson had a couple of weeks off it there. First week, Jefferson was absolutely flying. But past 2 weeks, he's not done it. And I think coming to the big stage, Spurs, isn't it? I think Spurs Stadium.
Is, yep.
And I think this is where he's going to take off again, and I could see the Vikings beating the Saints there.
Okay, I'll go Saints. Going for a big game for Chris Olave. All
Yeah,
right.
you just think about your own team, mate.
I'm biased. No, when you say Justin Jefferson, I know the Lions done a job on him last week and kept him very quiet. I think it'll be the same this week. Tyrone Matthew might keep him quiet. Maybe look at Adam Thielen owners in this one. They might be quite happy to start Thielen. I'd be looking at a flex spot sort of there if you're toiling with somebody to put in. I think he'd be good there considering he looked okay last week. He got his touchdown.
Yep.
So I'm going to go the Saints for that one.
I think Cousins could be a good shout for starting him in quarterback if you've got him as well in your fantasy league.
He's your steady Eddie in fantasy football. If you've got a bye week, he's your kind of guy you're putting in there. That's the way I see him. He's going to get you a solid anywhere between 12 to 20 points a week. Anyway, moving on. Pittsburgh Steelers, they're at home to the New York Jets, and I'm not digging the Pittsburgh Steelers whatsoever this year. I'm going to take an away result. I'm going to go to the New York Jets. It looks like Zach Wilson's going to be back. That should really get them going. Garrett Wilson looked good. Maybe a wee quiet week last week after his breakthrough in week 2. Also like Elijah Moore there. So I'm going to go the Jets for that one.
I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to go with Jets as well. I think just with Wilson coming back and Breece Hall started to show what he can do last week. And like you said, if Wilson comes back, Moore was a bit better last week and they two link up pretty well like they did last season.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm looking at this next game and I cannot believe my eyes that this has not been broadcast in the UK and they've took the Jags v the Eagles over it. Buffalo Bills at the Baltimore Ravens. You've got two of the most entertaining quarterbacks in the league and two of the most entertaining teams, and it's not on one of the live games. I cannot believe that, but I'm going to look at the Bills to bounce back in this one.
Yeah.
I just think last week maybe didn't go their way. I took the Dolphins last week. I think the Bills peaked, but not for the season. They peaked pretty early in terms of the performance. I just feel they'll bounce back. They'll have the fire in their bellies to look for a sort of comeback here. So I'm taking the Bills here. And also the starting sitting I was torn between this one and another guy that was quiet last week was Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis, Isaiah McKenzie or Stephon Diggs in this game. All three of them must start for your fantasy football team. Like I said earlier in the show, Bills, Eagles, Lions are the three high scoring offences in the league. If you have Bills players, start them and they'll win this week. Drew, do you agree?
I agree that the Bills will win, yes. I'm unsure about starting Isaiah McKenzie. I've got him, so I'm not starting him.
Do you think it doesn't get enough target share when Diggs and Gabe Davis are both firing?
I look at the players that I've got in my team and the wide receivers that I've got there, and it doesn't get in over them. If you're obviously struggling in terms of wide receivers, definitely throw them in, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I just don't think when Diggs is playing and Gabe Davis is playing, I don't think he gets enough targets to be a starter for me.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, Jaguars at the Eagles, the 3-0 Eagles. Who are you liking here?
Going to need to go to the Eagles, aren't you? Jags have started off really, really well, but I just think the Eagles will just have a wee bit too much for them. Jalen Hurts on fire, Devonta Smith on fire, AJ Brown doing well as well. I can't see anything past the Eagles here.
Yeah, when we look at this is a great game for fantasy when we look how both teams have started here. Eagles, you look at Jalen Hurts, you look at Devonta Smith, you look at AJ Brown, brilliant fantasy football players that have scored good points in the past couple of weeks. Look at the flip side, Jaguars as well, the other side of the tie. Lawrence has started well. Christian Kirk has been unbelievable. He's hot property. James Robinson. It's a very good game for fantasy football, and that's a live game at 6 o'clock in Sky this week. I am fancying the Eagles to go 4-0. I know the Jaguars have been good, but I fancy the Eagles at home.
I can see it being quite high scoring though.
Yeah, two entertaining offences, which is good.
Yep.
Okay, we've got the Seahawks going to the Lions. I am going to fancy the Lions for this one. The Seahawks are good, but they're a wee bit predictable. You look at Tyler Lockett, and DK Metcalf seem to be the only targets for Geno Smith there. In terms of the run game, we've not really seen enough from it between Rashad Penny and Kenneth Walker III. So I'm fancying the Lions again. The surprise package of this season so far look great in defence. I think they'll do a number on DK Metcalf this week. And yeah, I'm really fancying the Lions. What about you?
I'm going to agree with you. I fancy the Lions, especially with the way Jamal Williams played last week. And if he's stepping in to be RB1 there, with DeAndre Swift being out, yeah, I fancy the Lions. The only thing I think they might miss is Amon-Ra St. Brown. Is he playing? Is he made training? Do you know?
He looks questionable.
Yeah, I know. You know what I mean? He's had a great start to the season. A massive threat for the Lions at wide receiver. If he's not playing, will be a bit more difficult. I think they'll be heavily relying on Jamal Williams and TJ Hawkinson, especially TJ Hawkinson if Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to be out.
Yeah, it's a good shout on Hawkinson as well. He's always a steady tight end in fantasy football. That's it. Shug's man, the ham hock. But nah, the Lions, they've still got a bit of bite about them, don't they?
Oh, Kieran, I was going to say, Shug no being here, we won't get any puns, and look what you've just done.
I can't let my boy down.
Did he text you that one there?
He did not. But no, another divisional one here. We've got the Dallas Cowboys at home to the Washington Commanders. I've already said I'm really expecting CeeDee Lamb to have a big week against the number 30 defence to the wide receiver. I think the Cowboys will have too much for the Washington Commanders. Wentz looked awful last week. If he's in your fantasy team, he should not be your QB1. I just can't see past the Cowboys in this one. They look far too strong.
The first 2 weeks, I think we were all surprised with the Commanders, and then like last week, you called it last week, Wentz will fall off a cliff, and I don't think there was any steeper cliff he could have fell off than last week.
Yeah, I think he scored 6 points.
Yeah, it was absolutely terrible, and I can't see them doing much.
Yeah, and
especially with the coming up against Micah Parsons, and if Wentz gets 6 points last week. I've seen it was the Eagles they played last week, wasn't
it? That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, and I seen he kept getting sacked, and we all know how good Micah Parsons is at sacking the quarterback. So if you're a betting man, put Micah Parsons on over 4 sacks or something like that.
So Cowboys D would be a good starter for you, would you say?
I've got them.
Do you actually?
I've got them, aye.
And sidetracking a wee bit here as well, and we spoke about earlier that it's a good time to try and go in and nick some of the higher rated running backs in the league. Is it a good time to try and nick in and get Ezekiel Elliott, or should we say buy low on Ezekiel Elliott, considering he's not really started that well this week? This season?
I would probably say so. I think he falls into the category of your CMCs, your Jonathan Taylor. If you can trade up on them, definitely do it. I think with these big time running backs, it's their name that gets the attention in terms of trades rather than how they're actually playing. People will bank on how they could potentially do rather than how they are doing. Yeah,
100%. And it looks like, obviously, we've known that for years, that it's been Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott out of that backfield. Yep. Pollard's having an excellent season. Ezekiel Elliott maybe not, but who's to say he's not going to start to peak?
That's what happens, isn't it?
Maybe a good time to buy low on him. Anyway, we move on. I've got to stop saying that, by the way. I tried to trade with Jordan a couple of weeks ago, and I said buy low on Kyle Pitts. Tried to buy low on Kyle Pitts, and he said, I heard what you said in the podcast, mate.
This is the problem with us doing the podcast. When we talk about waivers and stuff like that, people will be like, oh, I didn't realise that we could go for him. And you know what I mean? And you say, oh, when you were doing it on Monday and our waivers were in the Wednesday, I was like, right, I hope nobody mentions any of these players that I'm going for. And I think you rhymed off about 5 or 6, and I'm like, well, that's me, Gub, then. I'm not getting any.
It's funny, though, because I remember editing the one that I wasn't on, and you guys were having a conversation on the video before I trimmed it down. And It was, I think it was like week 2 waivers, so it was after week 1. And you were all saying, I'm not giving my waivers. Everyone in the league listens to this. I'll give their initials. That's what Roberto was saying.
Like,
I think he didn't end up doing it at all. So
I think the funny thing had to be last week about Bobby dropping Khalil Herbert.
oh my God, that guy. And then Sterling Shepherd, who was also part of that trade, is now out for the season, which is a shame.
And then luckily he got the first choice in waivers and get Khalil Herbert back.
Just goes to show you got to be patient.
Exactly.
I know. But moving on, the Browns at the Atlanta Falcons. Who do you like here?
I'm going to go Falcons.
Yeah.
I think Mariota looks really good. Cordell Patterson looks good. Drake London looks excellent. And I think last week you started to see Kyle Pitts coming into his own again, like he was last season, taking the bull by the horns and trying to get them the win. But yeah, fancy the Falcons. You know what I mean? I think it all really depends on how good the Falcons' defense is to cope with Chubb, Hunt, and Cooper.
Yeah, hard to disagree there. I really like the look of Mariota. I like the look of London as well. And Cordell Patterson, everyone wrote him off. I did too. And he's starting to get going again. I think you've got a good pick up there. So I'm going to take the Falcons in that one as well. Next game up as well, Houston Texans are at home to the Los Angeles Chargers, who are really struggling on the injury side of things. But I'm still taking the Chargers for this one. If Keenan Allen's out, I still like Mike Williams in there. He's got a touchdown in him. He's the number one target there. Hopefully see Austin Eckler start to get going. You were just getting touchdown after touchdown from him last year. This year it's not really happened yet. So that could be quite an interesting game. The Texans have been better than expected, but still not a great team. So it's hard to see past the Chargers on that one.
I agree. I think people really fancy Damon Pierce making a statement this weekend. With obviously no Bosa and things like that as well, but we'll need to see.
Yeah, I'm still not quite sure about Pierce in terms of starting him.
Yeah.
I don't think he's quite there yet. It looks like a very even split between him and Rex Burkhead.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure yet. I think it's one of these ones he's probably going to progress to the second half of the season when he starts to establish himself as an NFL starter. But next one up, we have got the Tennessee Titans away to the Indianapolis Colts. I'm not saying for 1 second this is going to be an entertaining game. I don't believe it will be, wholeheartedly. But I'm going to take the Titans for this one. It's hard to see past them. Tannehill looked all right last week. Big Derrick Henry's now really getting going. I feel like he does this every season. Takes him a while to get going, and then he really gets going. So I really fancy the Titans to do a number on the Colts this week.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And then obviously with the news coming out today, Jonathan Taylor missing his first practice ever of his career. Is he going to play at the weekend? And if they've not got Jonathan Taylor, although he's not been to the heights he was at last season, I think they'll really struggle.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing there whatsoever. But who are you liking out of the New York Giants at home in New York to the Chicago Bears? Be careful.
It's a tough one, isn't it? But I think the Giants have started pretty well. Disappointing result during the week against I won't say a good Cowboys team, a decent Cowboys team, but fancy the Giants. Saquon Barkley, doing you proud, Kieran.
Yes, I will not live this down. This is the thing with being family, right? Any words that come out my mouth, you guys do not let me live it down, especially because you're three brothers and we're that close. I cannot live a single thing that comes down, and I often try and be a bit controversial to spark a laugh. Never live it down. Me not picking Barkley after my rant in the pre-season sort of podcasts. Oh, I can't believe I've not done it, but that's the thing. I'm not going to get him now because Johnny doesn't trade. But this game here is going to be run heavy. It's going to be Khalil Herbert and it's going to be Saquon Barkley. If you've got any of the two, you start them. Although I feel that the Giants, it doesn't show statistically. You look at who we've stopped. Ezekiel Elliott and Pollard were quiet the other night. Before that, Chris McCaffrey was quiet. Before that, Derrick Henry was quiet. I'm hoping we can keep Khalil Herbert quiet in this game because it just doesn't look like they want to throw to Darnell Mooney whatsoever. I'm predicting the Giants here. Let's go 3-1. Wee bit disappointing the other night. Terrible O-line. Daniel Jones is starting to look better steadily. I still don't buy into him being a franchise quarterback. The flip side of things is as well, when I say about the run game, we've not got a wide receiver. Kadarius Toney's still out. Wandale Robinson's still out. You've now got Sterling Shepherd out for the season. So all that really leaves is Richie James. I would not even have Kenny Galladay in my team whatsoever. That guy has been the biggest waste of money in NFL history.
Where is he?
He played the other night. He's dropped. Oh man, his drop was atrocious.
Was it close to the goal line?
It would have got us a first down, and it's been pinpointed right into his chest, and I've no idea how he's not kept a hold of the ball. It's so poor, but Richie James there, if you've got him in your swither on who to start in that flex spot, he's the most targeted wide receiver in the Giants team at the moment. If the run game's not on, he's basically the only target we have at wide receiver.
The Giants love guys with crazy hair, man, don't they?
Crazy hair and injuries.
Exactly.
I know, but moving on, Arizona Cardinals at the Carolina Panthers. This is an easy one. It's the Cardinals all day for me. Kyler Murray looked good last week. He's really starting to form a bond with Marquise Brown. James Conner, I'm not sure if I think he's sitting as questionable at the moment. I'm not sure what the full prognosis of it is, but it's hard to see past the Cardinals. The Panthers look poor.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one to definitely watch if you like a wee bet on the NFL is anytime touchdown scorer Dortch. He looks frightening.
Seems to be targeted a lot. Slot receiver seems to be targeted a lot. Production's been good. Good fantasy pickup.
Kyler likes him.
He does. I've been trying to get my hands on Marquise Brown all week as well, but that's not happening at all.
You just got your name back for last season.
That's it for anyone that doesn't know. Marquise Brown's boys last year. But the Panthers don't look great, especially without CMC. So, New England Patriots at Green Bay Packers. You touched on it earlier in the show. Hard to see past the Packers at home here. Patriots without Mac Jones is just going to be a bomb scare. Brian Hoyer, quarterback, for me, knocks out any fantasy relevance of any player at the Patriots. I've never been keen on the Patriots fantasy-wise because of the spread. Brian Hoyer, quarterback, just takes all of any confidence I ever had away. Green Bay Packers haven't really started well. A good one to get them back on the road.
Yeah.
And back to winning ways. So take the Packers for that one. Easy.
Yeah, totally agree. Packers. Only one I would maybe say to highlight in the Patriots is possibly Ramondre Stevenson. Maybe pick him up if you're struggling for a running back.
That's it. You'd imagine they'd go a wee bit heavier in the run game considering he's not the greatest, is he?
Yeah.
Anyway, the late game on Sky, 9:25. We've got the Denver Broncos going to Las Vegas, my favourite place in the world. Drew, Raiders or Broncos?
I think just with the way they've started the season, they can't go 0-4. I think you need to fancy the Raiders. I think there'll be serious questions asked there if they do not win against the Broncos on Sunday.
I'm going to go the Raiders on this one. I know earlier on I said that Josh Jacobs hasn't looked great and I don't fancy him and I feel like you should be sitting him because obviously the Broncos are good against the run game. I like Devontae Adams to sort of start getting going again, have a big day here. Hunter Renfrow is questionable, but Mac Hollins, which is going to be one of the biggest pickups this week in the waiver wires, start him in your flex spot. If you're swithering over who to pick, he's going to see a lot of production in this game. Broncos offensively, where do I start? Drew? It's not been great, has it?
I just need to watch what I say because I'm going down to London with Gary, so I can't say too much or I might not wake up one morning before we go to the game. So I think they've looked great. They've been absolutely terrible, haven't they? And Russell Wilson looks like he's signed the contract, the extension, and he's thought, that's me sorted. That's my life done.
Yeah, there's been a good bit back and forward with him and I think it was Eli Manning. It was either Eli or Peyton. When they did the Manning cast in the Monday night game, one of them said that they should have paid the punter the contract they gave him.
Oh my God.
So, sorry, it was Eli. The reason I know is because in Wilson's press conference, they asked him about it, and he said, well, I'm 3-0 against Chad Powers, given the viral video that Eli Manning done recently. So I thought that was quite a good comeback. It's probably the only thing that Russell Wilson's got right this year. So,
yeah.
I picked up Jerry Jeudy this week, still sitting on the bench. I'm still just not convinced about the Broncos offensively, but I think they'll get there eventually, just not right now. Moving on, Kansas City Chiefs at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's always a cracker when it's Mahomes up against Tom Brady. I can't see past the Chiefs in this one. Bucks are still a wee bit banged up offensively. Russell Gage still very viable fantasy option in that game. I still really fancy the Chiefs in this one. It's to be played in Tampa as far as I know, given the weather.
No bees?
No bees. There's still a buzz about the place.
How funny would it be if the game and the Chiefs coach had just went to his wee tash and there was hundreds of wasps in his tash?
Oh, he's in the backroom staff now. Put it past him.
I fancy the Bucks.
Bucks?
Aye. I'm going to say I'll fancy the Bucks. I just feel like, they've had a few narrow games, you know what I mean? Narrowly beat off the Packers, narrowly won against the Saints. I think we're having Mike Evans back for this week. It will be massive for them, and I could see him absolutely smashing it.
Huge red zone target, Evans. Absolutely love him in fantasy football.
Yep.
But yeah, last game, Monday night late game, we've got the Los Angeles Rams going to the San Francisco 49ers. Hard to see past the Rams here, it really is. I'm going to go Rams here. 49ers, I always like the offense in terms of Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback. I'm not really convinced there, and especially with Eli Mitchell still out. Rams, you've got Cooper Kupp in the field. Like, you've got a chance of winning every single game. So that's why I am taking the Rams.
You know, as a big Rams fan, I think you need to look at the Rams, but I'll tell you something, I will not be staying up to watch that game anyway because I think it'll be an absolute snooze fest.
Really?
Yeah, I think it'll be terrible. I think it'll be very low scoring. I'm going to say below 40 points.
I'll ask you this. Will it be worse than the Week 3 Broncos versus 49ers game at 11-10?
Oh, I really don't know. I was going to say below 30 points in the game, but I was like, that's quite tight, you know. Cooper Kupp could have one of his days and he could score 2-3 touchdowns, you know. It just really depends. But 49ers defence is decent and Stafford's an absolute bum, so God knows.
I'm absolutely shocked when I look back at this that Sky, after Monday night, they selected the Broncos at the Raiders as one of their live games as well. I can't get my head around it. There must be more to that, if you know what I mean.
They think they have a deal that they need to do a certain amount of each team needs to get a certain amount of live games on Sky or something like that, or
I've no idea. I'll be honest, I've got no idea, but I think we've got a couple of the hosts from Sky coming on the podcast later in the year, so I can ask them.
What about is Shug's player coming on the podcast?
Shug's player?
Emmanuel Sanders.
I've met him.
I know you did, I know.
I've met him. So
what did you say about him?
What did I say? I loved him. One thing he did say.
He hates fantasy football.
He hates it. He's had fallouts with friends.
Yep.
The lot. Like, they'll go in moods with him, text him saying, what was that all about and stuff. He'll block their number. He hates fantasy football. He stood up and they just said, listen, I couldn't give a shit about your fantasy team.
I couldn't believe you came out to pick me up last week and you had the old Bill Belichick on, man.
Oh, the old sleeveless hoodie. I'm going to wear it. I'll tell you what, I'll wear it to the studio on Monday.
I get in the car and I was like, oh, what the hell is that, man?
Do you know what that reminds me of? It's like my favourite NFL video that goes about. It's like Stone Cold Steve Austin, the glass crash. And it's like, and then Bill Belichick's coming walking out the tunnel, sleeveless on, absolutely nobody getting his way. You've got all the kids hanging over trying to high-five him. He's just laser focused straight past them.
That's it.
Legend. But nah, we'll not go on too long. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. You are a fountain of NFL knowledge. Who thought we would have been saying that this time 2 years ago?
I know, I didn't even know what a ball was this time 2 years ago. Didn't even know what a running back was. And look at me now. Podcast genius.
We'll not get that for. There's no geniuses on this show, I'll tell you that for free. Martin. Who? Owen 3 Martin?
Exactly, Owen 3 Martin. He's the only one that's not won a game in the league.
Let's keep it like that.
I know. Okay. I think, is he playing Jordan this weekend? I think it's 0-3 versus 3-0.
Oh, what a bad time. What a bad time. Jordan's team's absolutely stacked. Martin, in his fairness, has not had the best luck, but that's fantasy football. You've got to hustle, you've got to trade well, you've got to get good waiver pickups, just stick in at it and don't give up. But anyway, if you've lasted this long, please subscribe, please like. Even a wee rating would be nice, but no, let's build the numbers up, let's keep it going. We've got plenty of good content coming your way. But like I've said already, Drew, thank you as ever. You've been a cracking guest.
Thank you. It's a bit different being in here rather than the G4 podcast studio, you know.
That's the place to be. But no, good luck in your tie this week, and thank you very much everyone for listening. Goodbye. Keep 100% of your claim. G4 Claims.
If you've been hurt in a road accident that wasn't your fault, you should really talk to G4 Claims first. Unlike road accident solicitors, we don't charge you for our services, which could see you better off. To keep 100% of your compensation, have a chat with Nicole and the team. You'll be glad you did. Search online for G4 Claims. Keep 100% of your claims.